Hi and welcome. You're listening to the LM Report. My name is Lima and this is episode 21. Today's date is July 22nd, 2025, and the title of the episode is The Real Manchurian Candidate Has Been Exposed, Sedition, Treason, Justice on the Horizon. In this extended episode, we'll delve deeper into the ongoing political developments that are captivating the nation, including the declassifications of sensitive government documents related to past elections and intelligence operations. We'll examine how these revelations are not only shaping public discourse but also raising profound questions about accountability, transparency, and the integrity of our democratic institutions. As always, our goal is to provide a balanced, thorough analysis based on the available information, encouraging listeners to engage critically and form their own informed opinions. We'll cover a range of topics, from domestic policy shifts to international relations, ensuring a comprehensive overview of the current landscape. Let's dive into the economic, political, and geopolitical news with more detailed insights. Political panic and declassifications. Political atmospheres charged with tension as recent declassifications of government documents continue to unfold, sparking intense and widespread debate about the actions taken by former officials during the 2016 and 2020 presidential elections. Critics and analysts alike argue that these materials suggest a series of coordinated efforts aimed at influencing electoral outcomes, with particular attention directed toward figures such as former President Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, James Clapper, and John Brennan, who are portrayed as central players in these narratives. President Trump has been vocal and unreserved in his public statements, asserting that these revelations indicate a persistent pattern of alleged misconduct, including strategic attempts to undermine his campaigns and subsequent administrations through various means. The overarching strategy behind these declassifications appears to involve a methodical, gradual release of information, which allows for sustained public response, scrutiny, and engagement. This deliberate approach, often characterized as dripping details into the public domain, is designed to build a compelling narrative over time while effectively countering any denials or counterarguments from those implicated. A prime example of this tactic in action is the recent response from Obama's office, which has dismissed the claims as mere distractions intended to divert attention from other issues. They reaffirm the conclusions drawn from established bipartisan reports, such as the 2020 Senate Intelligence Committee findings, which detailed Russian efforts to influence the 2016 election without altering vote tallies. A pivotal element in this unfolding drama is the Supreme Court's landmark 2024 ruling on presidential immunity in the case of Trump versus United States. This decision clearly delineates that immunity is limited to official acts conducted while in office, and it must be assessed based on whether those acts are classified as official or unofficial. Importantly, this ruling does not extend blanket protections to severe crimes such as treason, attempts to overthrow the government, for example, through a coup or insurrection, or involvement in unauthorized spying and surveillance operations. Furthermore, it does not include exceptions based on the gravity of such crimes, even when they involve betraying the nation or undermining the foundations of democracy. Actions taken after leaving office fall entirely outside the scope of presidential immunity, meaning the individual can be prosecuted as any ordinary citizen would be. This legal framework could significantly impact how former officials are held accountable, potentially paving the way for future legal proceedings and investigations. The controversial term Manchurian candidate has been increasingly invoked to describe Obama, evoking the idea of a long-term covert plan to influence or destabilize U.S. policy from within. While this characterization remains highly contentious and speculative, it ties directly into long-standing questions about Obama's citizenship and personal background, though these allegations remain unproven and are complicated by sealed records that continue to fuel speculation and conspiracy theories. The broader focus here is on demonstrating a consistent group of individuals allegedly involved in a series of events stretching back to 2008, encompassing impeachments, the national response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and more recent legal and political challenges regarding statutes of limitations. Many argue that they may not apply if the alleged conspiracies are deemed ongoing, and certain charges like treason inherently carry no time limits, allowing for prosecutions regardless of when the acts occurred. As additional information continues to emerge through declassifications, the defenses mounted by the accused parties could inadvertently highlight inconsistencies or gaps in their narratives, thereby strengthening the calls for thorough investigations and justice. This process is expected to intensify, with each new release potentially escalating the public and political discourse surrounding these issues. Media and propaganda shifts. The evolving landscape of late-night television programming is undergoing significant transformations, with prominent shows like Stephen Colbert's facing abrupt cancellation after sustaining substantial financial losses over several years. Reports indicate that Colbert's program alone incurred annual losses of approximately $40 million since as early as 2021, a trend that has similarly impacted other hosts such as Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon. These shows have frequently been criticized for their overtly partisan content, which some argue has contributed to steadily declining viewership numbers as audiences increasingly turn away from what they perceive as biased propaganda in favor of more neutral or alternative media sources. President Trump has actively highlighted these developments in his communications, suggesting that his persistent influence and criticisms have played a major role in exposing and challenging these biases. In parallel, a series of successful lawsuits against major networks, including CBS and its flagship program 60 Minutes, have resulted in notable settlements. A recent example includes a $16 million payout, with expectations of an additional $20 million in advertising or public service announcements, underscoring a growing trend toward holding media outlets accountable for disseminating alleged misinformation and defamatory content. Moreover, celebrity-driven fundraising efforts for natural disasters, such as the devastating Los Angeles fires, have come under increased scrutiny for their lack of transparency. In one instance, approximately $50 million was raised by Democrats and celebrities, yet investigations revealed that the funds were primarily directed toward nonprofits and high-salary executives rather than directly aiding the victims. This pattern echoes similar concerns from past events like the Haiti earthquake, where donated funds were allegedly laundered through various channels without reaching those in need. These ongoing shifts collectively indicate a broader erosion of control for traditional media outlets and celebrity influencers. As public trust wanes and audiences demand greater accountability, factual accuracy, and ethical practices in reporting and fundraising, immigration and public safety and fake news stories surrounding immigration and deportations persist, with fabricated narratives designed to incite public outrage. A recent example involves a hoax published in a Pennsylvania newspaper, claiming that ICE agents arrested and mistreated an 82-year-old legal asylum holder before deporting him to Guatemala. Subsequent investigations by authorities revealed no supporting records for these claims, including no evidence of the individual's arrest, deportation, or even presence in the alleged hospital. The family involved has since ceased all communication, underscoring the deceptive nature of such stories and the importance of rigorous fact-checking in immigration-related reporting. Real-world incidents, however, continue to highlight genuine security concerns, such as the recent shooting of a CBP officer in New York City by suspects, one of whom was an illegal immigrant with a criminal history. Video evidence captured the event, showing the assailant's escape and subsequent actions, reinforcing the need for enhanced border security measures. Legislative responses like the CLEAR Act of 2025 seek to address these issues by stripping federal funding from sanctuary jurisdictions that ignore ICE detainers, as seen in cases like the April 2024 arrest in New York City. This act aims to promote consistent enforcement of immigration laws across the country. Democrats in 20 states are actively suing to preserve taxpayer-funded benefits for immigrants, including healthcare and tuition assistance, which contradicts their previous assertions that no such benefits were being provided to illegal immigrants. Statements from representatives like Yvette Clarke, who has expressed a need for more migrants in her district for redistricting purposes, raise serious ethical questions about the motivations behind open border policies and their impact on electoral integrity and fair representation. Public opinion polls, such as one conducted by McLaughlin Associates, reveal strong opposition to amnesty, with 77% of likely voters deeming it unfair, including 55% who feel strongly about the issue. This sentiment reflects broader voter priorities for secure borders, legal immigration processes, and equitable treatment under the law. International relations and withdrawals. The United States has once again withdrawn from UNESCO under President Trump's directive, marking the second such exit during his tenure. This decision echoes President Reagan's 1983 withdrawal and criticizes the organization's alleged biases toward pro-China and pro-Palestine stances, as well as other priorities deemed inconsistent with U.S. values. UNESCO, intended to promote global cooperation in education, science, and culture, has faced accusations of politicization, prompting this move to distance the U.S. from what is perceived as a flawed international body. Similarly, the administration's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal has been reaffirmed, with recent statements from Iran's foreign minister confirming significant damage to nuclear sites. This aligns with a policy of using economic and military leverage to deter threats and promote stability. In the context of the Ukraine-Russia conflict, halting direct U.S. aid has shifted the financial burden to NATO and EU partners, who primarily offer loans rather than outright grants. Ukrainian President Zelensky has voiced frustrations over the lack of tangible benefits from NATO's increased military spending commitments, highlighting delays and hesitations. With Ukraine's credit rating low and repayment capabilities limited, this approach may accelerate negotiations, as endless wars become unsustainable without U.S. subsidies. These international maneuvers emphasize a doctrine of self-reliance, economic incentives for peace, and selective engagement to protect American interests. Nominations and investigations. With over 260 nominees still awaiting Senate confirmation, There are growing calls to forego long weekends and the traditional August recess to expedite the process. Figures like Alina Habba, the interim U.S. attorney in New Jersey, face concerted opposition from judges, particularly those appointed during previous administrations, illustrating the partisan struggles over key appointments. Ongoing include the release of 230,000 files related to the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., providing new details on FBI investigations and potential leads. These efforts, spurred by Executive Order 14,176, also encompassed inquiries into the Kennedy assassinations, drawing parallels to recent attempts on President Trump's life and suggesting possible historical connections. Attorney General Pamela Bondi is actively pursuing new leads, including outreach to Ghislaine Maxwell for potential testimony on crimes against victims. This marks a shift, as previous administrations had not engaged her counsel. Judge Engelmeyer, overseeing related grand jury transcripts, has requested additional information on disclosure reasons, identities, and impacts. With a deadline of August 5 for letters from Maxwell and victims, these investigations underscore a commitment to uncovering truths, even uncomfortable ones, in pursuit of justice. Conclusion: path to accountability. As the declassifications and investigations continue to unfold, a compelling narrative is emerging that seeks accountability for alleged election interference, government overthrows, and systemic corruption. President Trump has positioned former President Obama as the central figure or ringleader in these events, supported by declassified evidence suggesting a long-term agenda to influence U.S. governance. The Supreme Court's immunity ruling provides a clear legal framework, limiting protections and enabling potential prosecutions for post office actions. Advocates like General Flynn call for exploring military tribunals and measures like passport seizures to prevent evasion, emphasizing that treason is not shielded by immunity. The overarching mission appears to be educating the public, fostering unity, and ensuring broad acceptance of any forthcoming actions. By gradually releasing information and countering spins, the administration aims to build an irrefutable case. Trump's successes in media lawsuits, policy reversals, and international diplomacy demonstrate substantial leverage, with the ultimate goal of restoring power to the people in line with constitutional principles. As midterm elections approach, these developments will likely influence voter decisions and the balance of power in Congress. Thank you for listening to this extended episode. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the LM Report channel for more insightful discussions. Your support helps us continue providing quality content.